In the year 1241, a terror out of the east fell upon the edge of Christendom, and Europe had almost no idea what had come for it. For a generation, rumors had drifted west along the trade roads of a horse people risen on the far side of the world under a warlord named Genghis Khan, who had welded the scattered tribes of the Mongolian steppe into the most efficient war machine the world had ever seen, and then hurled it across Asia, toppling empires from China to Persia. Genghis himself was 14 years dead, but his heirs had not stopped. His son Ögedei, now Great Khan, had loosed the armies on the west, and at their head rode Batu, a grandson of the conqueror, and the general Subutai, a broad, one-eyed old man who had never lost a battle, and who is remembered today as one of the supreme military minds in all of history. They had already swallowed the Russian principalities whole. In the winter of 1240, they stormed and butchered Kiev, the mother of Russian cities, so thoroughly that a papal envoy passing through years later found the fields still carpeted with skulls and bones. Then, in the spring of 1241, they came through the Carpathian passes into the heart of Europe and did something that should have been impossible. They divided. One wing swept north into Poland. The main body drove into the Kingdom of Hungary. The two forces, hundreds of miles apart, struck within 2 days of each other with a coordination no European commander could even have imagined. On the 9th of April, at Legnica in Silesia, the Mongols destroyed a combined army of Polish and German knights, including the flower of the Teutonic Order. Duke Henry the Pious fell, and they carried his head through the countryside on the point of a spear. 2 days later, on the 11th, at the Sajo River near Mohi, Subutai sprang the trap he had built for the King of Hungary. He let a gap open in his encirclement, and as the panicked Hungarian army streamed through it toward apparent safety, the horse archers rode along their flanks and cut them down for days across the open plain. King Bela IV escaped by a hair, hunted all the way to an island in the Adriatic. In a single week, the two strongest armies of Central Europe had simply ceased to exist. Nothing now stood between the Mongols and the Atlantic. That winter, the Danube froze, and Mongol columns crossed the ice and rode into Austria, probing toward Vienna, while scouts ranged into the Balkans and northern Italy. The Holy Roman Emperor and the Pope, the two great swords of Western Christendom, were too busy trying to destroy each other to lift a finger against the storm. Europe lay open, and then in the last days of 1241, 5,000 miles to the east, a 56-year-old man drank himself to death. Ögedei, Great Khan of the Mongols, was gone. By the law of the steppe, the princes of the blood were required to return to Mongolia to elect his successor, and Batu, who had his own designs on that throne, turned his armies around and rode east. The invasion of Europe simply stopped. Christendom never grasped how close it had come, or that it had been spared not by its knights or its walls, but by a funeral on the far side of the earth. But our world is only one of many. Time runs in branches, and every branch turns on a single moment that might have gone another way. A Khan who empties one cup too many on a winter night, or a Khan who sets it down and lives. Somewhere in that endless web of what-ifs lies a reality in which Ögedei does not die in December of 1241, and the order to turn back never comes. Let us cross over and follow that world to its end. In this timeline, the Great Khan lives, and in the spring of 1242, Subutai resumes the campaign he had meant to fight all along, the one that ended only at the Great Sea, the ocean at the western edge of the world. The frozen Danube has already handed him his bridgehead. The walled cities that believed stone would save them learn what Kiev and the cities of Persia and China had learned before them, that the Mongols had mastered siege engineering from the finest engineers of the civilizations they devoured, and that a town which refused to submit was not besieged but erased to the last inhabitant, as a lesson to the next town down the road. The scattered dukes and bishops of Germany, unable to combine, are beaten one doomed muster at a time. By the end of the year, the horsetail banners fly along the Rhine. The two institutions that might have rallied the West instead fall with it. The Holy Roman Empire, That vast patchwork of hundreds of quarreling principalities had always been strong only against enemies as divided as itself. Against a single directing will, it comes apart like wet paper. Its brilliant, cynical emperor, Frederick II, the man his own age called the wonder of the world, had once answered a Mongol demand for surrender with the jest that he knew birds well enough to serve as the Khan's falconer. Now the joke curdles into prophecy, and the imperial crown that claimed descent from the Caesars is bartered away for the bare right to keep breathing, and Rome, the seat of the Latin Church, the spiritual capital of the West, meets the fate the Mongols would deal to Baghdad and its caliph only 16 years later in our own history. The eternal city stormed and gutted, its treasures loaded onto carts bound east, the Pope a fugitive riding for the coast, with whatever cardinals can still keep the saddle. The unbroken line of authority that ran back, in Christian eyes, all the way to St. Peter, is not martyred into new strength, but simply scattered, and the shepherds of Christendom become one more conquered priesthood in an empire that has already swallowed 100 faiths and outlived them all. Only the sea holds. As the wave breaks against the western coasts, France under its young and pious King Louis is bled and battered and, in the end, made to bow. But England and Ireland beyond it are shielded by the same narrow water that would one day break other conquerors. The Mongols were a people of the horse and the grassland. Twice in our own history, the ocean turned them back from Japan, their invasion fleets shattered by storms the Japanese would call the divine wind. Here, too, the salt water marks the edge of the possible. The horsetail banners reach the Atlantic shore and can ride no further, and the channel becomes the moat of a broken tributary Europe. What settles over the conquered lands is not a wasteland, but a system, the same one the Golden Horde imposed on Russia for 2.5 centuries. The Mongols do not trouble to govern Frenchmen and Germans directly. They rule through them. Kings and dukes who submit are left on their thrones as tax farmers for the Khan, their sons carried east as hostages, their subjects counted in meticulous censuses and squeezed for tribute and soldiers. And behind the terror comes the thing the Mongols always brought with them, the Pax Mongolica, the enormous piece of a single empire now stretching from the coast of Portugal to the Sea of Japan. The roads are made safe. The Silk Road runs unbroken to the Atlantic, and along it flow the marvels of the East: gunpowder, printing, the compass, paper money, the gathered science of China and Persia and the Arab world, reaching Europe not in the slow trickle of our own history, but in a flood, a century or two ahead of schedule. But the same open roads that carry silk and gunpowder will one day carry something darker. In our timeline, the Black Death rode the Mongol trade routes out of the East and killed something near half of Europe. In a Europe stitched even more tightly to Asia, the great mortality may come sooner and cut deeper still. The terrible toll that the world's first truly global highway would exact from everyone who dared to travel it. Over the generations, the conquerors are changed by what they conquer, as conquerors always are. The Golden Horde and the Mongols of Persia, both, in our timeline, embraced Islam within 2 or 3 generations. A Western Khanate might well have done the same, and so the faith that was turned back from Europe's southern gate at Tours might have arrived at last through its eastern one, carried not by Arab armies, but by the grandsons of Mongol horse lords, until a Muslim or a syncretic court ruled from the old palaces of the West. But the deepest change is the one no one alive could have seen. Our Europe became the master of the world precisely because it was never unified, because 100 jealous states, crammed together and endlessly at war, drove one another to build better ships and better guns, and to sail west in search of any edge over a rival. A Europe frozen into a single tributary province of a world empire runs no such fever. There is no race of kingdoms to fund a Genoese dreamer sailing west in 1492. The age of exploration that flung Europe across the oceans may never catch fire at all, and a world that in our timeline was remade from Lisbon and London and Amsterdam is instead remade, if it is remade by anyone, from Karakorum and Beijing. And yet even this is not the simple apocalypse it first appears. And honesty demands the other side of the ledger. The Pax Mongolica, for all that it was born in slaughter, was the greatest engine of exchange the pre-modern world ever built. A Europe wired directly into it might have inherited the learning of half the planet and leapt centuries ahead in medicine and mathematics and machinery. The Mongols were famously indifferent to creed, taxing church and mosque alike, but rarely troubling to convert anyone by the sword. Christianity would likely have survived, humbled, as one tolerated faith among many, but the path to any of it runs across a mountain of the dead. The Mongols unmade whole civilizations with a thoroughness that has few equals in the human record, and the price of their peace was always paid first in cities of corpses. And there is real reason to doubt they could have held the West at all. Beyond the grasslands of Hungary, the wet forests and stone castles, and close, broken country of the European heartland, were poisoned to an army that lived on its horses and the open plain. The conquest we have imagined might, in the end, have receded like a tide, leaving behind not an empire but a scar, and the memory of the year the world nearly ended. That is the vertiginous lesson hiding inside this what if. We tell ourselves that civilizations are defended by their soldiers and their walls, by the courage of knights and the height of towers. But in the spring of 1242, the soldiers and the walls of Europe had already failed. Every army sent against the Mongols was dead, and nothing physical remained to stop them. What stopped them was a cup of wine, emptied by a tired man in a tent 5,000 miles away, and the strange succession law that turned that death into a retreat. The knights did not save Europe, the towers did not save Europe, a funeral in Mongolia saved Europe, and everything the West would go on to become. Every cathedral finished, every republic founded, every ship that ever sailed west into the unknown sailed, without once knowing it, out of the space left open by one man's grave. This has been Historically Parallel.